In 2007, Machinist Workshop magazine ran a controlled test of every major penetrating oil on the market. 6 products, the same bolt, the same rust. One measurement, how many pounds of torque it took to break the fastener free. WD-40 required 238 pounds. PB Blaster required 214 pounds, a $2 home brew made from 2 common garage liquids, the kind machinists have quietly passed around in forums for decades, required 53 pounds, less than a quarter of what the country's best-selling penetrant delivered. The WD-40 company generated $488 million in revenue in 2023. That test has been sitting in machinist forums since 2007. Nobody in the industry wanted it to spread further than that. This is buried formula. This is the vault they prayed would stay sealed. The seize bolt problem is as old as iron. The moment metal meets moisture, iron and oxygen combine to form iron oxide, which we call rust, and rust expands as it grows, locking threads together with a mechanical grip that increases with every year of exposure. A fastener installed with 20 foot-pounds of torque can resist 500 pounds of force a decade later. Roman engineers dealt with this in their aqueducts. Iron fittings in wet Mediterranean climates seized within years of installation. Their solution was documented in construction records from the 2nd century. Animal fat and fish oil were worked into threaded connections before assembly and reapplied periodically to maintain disassembly access. The principle, a fluid thin enough to penetrate thread gaps while leaving a residual lubricating film, has guided metalworking ever since. By the 18th century, English factory machinists were freeing seized steam machinery connections with mixtures of lamp oil and turpentine. Turpentine was the penetrant. It was distilled from pine resin and was extraordinarily thin. Lamp oil was the lubricant. The chemistry was the same that underlies the modern formula, a low viscosity carrier that wicks into microscopic thread gaps, followed by a heavier lubricant that stays behind after the carrier evaporates. WD-40 entered this history in 1953. Norm Larson at the Rocket Chemical Company developed it for one purpose, preventing corrosion on Atlas missile components by displacing water from metal surfaces. The name stands for water displacement, 40th attempt. The formula is primarily mineral spirits and mineral oil. It was a corrosion inhibitor. It was never engineered to free-seize fasteners. What happened next was entirely a function of marketing. For 50 years, the blue and yellow can become associated with the concept of anything stuck. The reason the automatic transmission fluid and acetone formula outperformed every commercial product in 2007 comes down to the physical properties of acetone. Acetone has one of the lowest dynamic viscosities of any common liquid. It is measurably thinner than water, thinner than any commercial penetrant tested, and dramatically thinner than WD-40. When it contacts a seized bolt assembly, capillary action, the same force that draws liquid up through a narrow tube, pulls it into thread gaps almost instantly. It reaches depths that thicker formulations cannot reach in the same time frame. The limitation of acetone alone is that it evaporates within minutes of application. It carries no lubricating properties, it penetrates and then it is gone. Automatic transmission fluid addresses that limitation. A TF is a precision-engineered lubricant designed to maintain a stable film under the extreme pressure and temperature conditions inside a transmission system. It contains anti-wear compounds and friction modifiers that survive where conventional oil fails. When acetone wicks into the seized thread gap, it carries ATF molecules with it. The acetone then evaporates, leaving ATF deposited at the deepest point of the rust interface where no spray can product had previously delivered lubricant. The ATF then works against the rust bond from the inside out. The 53-pound torque figure from the Machinist's Workshop test reflects this mechanism precisely. Commercial penetrants sit on the surface or penetrate a few thread widths. The ATF and acetone combination deposits lubricant at the rust metal interface itself. WD-40 generated $488 million in revenue in fiscal year 2023. The company operates in 176 countries. The formula, mineral spirits, and mineral oil has not changed meaningfully since 1953. The same basic chemistry as lamp oil and turpentine, rebranded and sold at 1,000% markup over raw materials. What WD-40's marketing does not communicate is what the company's own technical documentation states clearly. WD-40 is classified as a water displacer and corrosion inhibitor. The company itself sells a separate product line specifically marketed as penetrating oil because the iconic blue and yellow can is not primarily that. It became the default response to every seized fastener in America through advertising, not through superior chemistry. PB Blaster, Liquid Wrench, and Croil are genuine penetrants, better engineered for the purpose, but none of them can be produced from 2 hardware store liquids for $2. None of them can be replicated without purchasing them. The automatic transmission fluid and acetone formula cannot be patented because its components are prior art. It cannot be branded because it has no proprietary chemistry. It cannot generate repeat revenue because machinists who know it rarely run out. So it stayed exactly where industries prefer inconvenient knowledge to stay, in specialist forms, passed quietly between professionals, invisible to the consumer market. A can of Dadu D40 retails between $6 and $9. PB Blaster runs $7 to $10. Croil, widely regarded as the best commercial penetrant available, sells for $15 to $20 per can. The average American household spends $40 to $80 annually on penetrating oils and related products. The raw materials behind the formula that outperformed all of them in controlled testing cost approximately $3.50 to $6 per liter combined, acetone at $3 to $5 per liter, conventional automatic transmission fluid at $4 to $7 per liter, mixed 50-50. 1 liter of the combined formula handles every seized fastener a typical household encounters over years of maintenance. The gap between $80 per year and under $4 for a batch that lasts, that arithmetic is what $488 million in annual WD-40 revenue depends on remaining unexamined. The formula that produced the Machinist Workshop result has been documented consistently across machinist forums for 17 years. The components are acetone, the same solvent that constitutes the active ingredient in nail polish remover, and conventional Dexron automatic transmission fluid. Professionals who have tested synthetic automatic transmission fluid variants report that the additive packages in synthetic formulations interfere with how the 2 liquids interact, so the machinist community has settled on conventional Dexron as the reliable choice. The ratio tested by Machinist Workshop is a 50-50 ratio by volume, combined in a glass container. Acetone dissolves many common plastics, so machinists who store this formula long-term use glass mason jars with metal lids. One physical characteristic of the mixture determines whether it performs as tested or fails. Acetone and automatic transmission fluid have different densities, and they separate into distinct layers within minutes of sitting undisturbed, the way oil separates from water. Machinists who report poor results are frequently applying from a container that has not been agitated. The formula requires thorough mixing immediately before each application. The application method that replicates the test results involves working the mixture into the thread interface at every accessible point, not just the visible bolt head surface. A small brush or dropper allows precise delivery into the gap between fastener and housing. Soak times reported in machinist forums range from 15 to 30 minutes for moderately seized fasteners to overnight application for severely corroded components like exhaust manifold bolts or decade-old suspension hardware exposed to road salt. The machinist community is also clear about where the formula's limitations lie. The 2007 test was conducted on surface rust seizure. In cases of galvanic corrosion, where dissimilar metals have fused through electrochemical reaction over years of heat cycling, no penetrant reliably solves the problem. For those situations, machinists consistently reach for a torch rather than any liquid solution. The ATF acetone formula is not a universal answer. It is a dramatically more effective answer than any commercial product for the specific and common problem of oxidation-based thread seizure. One safety characteristic of the formula is non-negotiable across every machinist account. Acetone has a flash point well below room temperature and is classified as highly flammable. Machinists store it in sealed glass containers away from heat sources and apply it only in ventilated spaces with no open flame present. Roman engineers worked animal fat into iron thread connections 2,000 years ago. English machinists used lamp oil and turpentine in steam factories in the 1700s. A machinist magazine published controlled test results proving the home brew beats every commercial product in 2007. WD-40 generated $488 million in revenue last year, selling you mineral spirits and mineral oil in a blue and yellow can. $2, a glass jar, 60 seconds to mix. The seize bolt on your exhaust, your suspension, or your engine block could be free by tonight. Subscribe. We open one of these vaults every single day. This is Buried Formula.